So I suppose that you have successfully installed Eclipse software, and now you should see the same window as I do. What you need to do, you need to load the project that you will find in Moodle. For this purpose, you click here on File, open projects from the file system, and here you need to find the directory where your project is now saved. So I will not do this because I have already the project here in the environment. So I have here Project Explorer. If you don't have here Project Explorer, then you go to the window, Show View, and you see here Project Explorer. So if you press it, then it will appear here. Then you will see Java Exercises 2020, and there will be a folder in Moodle with some files. So first, what we will do, we will open sample test class. And this is a test class that you can use to test some codes here. So this is already a ready class. You don't have to understand all these keywords and everything that is written here. What is important for you to know is that if you have any code that you want to test, Java code, then you put it here, add test code here. If you want to print any statements to the console, then you see this comment here, you print those statements here. If you have any import statements, if you need to import any packages, then you put them here. So this was the sample test Java. Here in our Eclipse software, we have several windows that we will use. So the first window is Project Explorer. It helps you to have an overview of the hierarchy tree, and you will see usually here the classes that we will use here. You see also how it organized into packages. This is a package. Exercise 1, General Introduction. The next window is the main window where we put our code. Then we have console. If you don't have a console here, then please add it in this way. It is here. And here you have outline. There are two very useful shortcuts for Java, for Eclipse, that I advise you to use just to save your time. So the first one is shortcut to run your code. So the first option to run your code, you press here Run Sample Test Class, and you see here in the console Hello World. This is exactly what should have been printed out according to this statement. So if you don't want to press every time on this button, then you just press on your keyboard Ctrl and F11. The second very nice useful shortcut is used to move through editor tabs. So for example, if we have two tabs now open, let us open for example array and this one, and you don't want to press every time on these tabs, you can use Control Page Up and Control Page Down and on your keyboard, and then you can just switch between those steps very quickly. Okay, so now we will write the first class together, and for this purpose we click here, right click, new class. The class is called simple BMI calculator. So I have already one, that's why I will just put here 2. Here you see already public is already selected. You can leave it. If you want that some methods are automatically created, you can just put here mark, but we will leave it now out and finish. And here is our class. You see that it appeared in our package here. So first what we will do, we will open our simple test class and we will copy this statement where we can insert our code. Public static void main string arguments add test code here. So for now we will just use it as it is. So my purpose is first to write a code together with you, and afterwards we will go in detail through all of the parts of it. So first what we want to do, we want to declare and initialize variables. So first variable is weight, and this variable is of type double. So now we have declared. If we want to initialize it at the same time, we write in this way. It means that the variable weight has a value of 85, and the letter D shows us that this is of type double. This is the first way to declare and initialize variable simultaneously. There is a second option. When you do this in 2 steps. So we need another variable height, and first you declare this variable. So there is a variable height that is of type double, and in the next line we initialize it. So this variable has value 1.8 meters, for example, and this is also of type double. So see here, you see that we have declared and initialized variables in 2 possible ways. So this is a bit shorter. This way is more detailed. Maybe at the beginning for you it is better to use the second option, just to have an overview for yourself. So the next what we do, we want to calculate BMI, and now for this purpose we need a formula. So the formula will calculate BMI. The BMI will be also a variable that will store this value of BMI that will be calculated, and it means that this variable should also be first initialized. So you can use this way. For example, you can say that the variable BMI will be of type double BMI, and now you write a formula for BMI, and this is weight over height times height. Every statement has to end with semicolon. And what we want to have at the end, we want to print the BMI value to our console. Your BMI is BMI. So what do we want to print? We want to print to our console the words, this part of the sentence, your BMI is, and then we want to print our variable value and a point at the end. And we want to run it. Eclipse tells us that first we need to save. We press OK, and here in the console we have our BMI value calculated. I have just found out that there were some problems with audio recording. My microphone was not working. Sorry for that. I hope that now you can have a better sound. So we have written our first class in Java, and it is here. So we have public class statement. We have our main method, we have our variables, here are our variables, and our method actually here inside. So now what we do, we open BMI calculator Java, and here I will enlarge you. If you double click, then it will open a bigger window. So here we will now go through the code. So actually this is the same BMI calculator, I've been written in a bit advanced way, and we are now going through it. Here we have a class, this part, and the class definition is enclosed within brackets. So here the opening bracket and here the closing bracket, and everything in between refers to the class. The definition of a class starts with access modifier. In this case it is public, and it tells us which classes have access to this class. Next word is class. It is a keyword, and it is followed by the name of the class. In our case it is BMI calculator. Everything inside it's called code container. It has variables. So here we have our weight, height and BMI variables. Now in this example code, they are taken out of the main method and put here. That's why we have static before. We will come to this a bit later in our class. So first we have variables, and then we have methods. In this example we have three methods. First, second, and third. The very last method, it is main method. Here you see the keyword main. Execution of every Java program starts from the main method. It means that first this method will be executed, and what we see, what will be done, so here so first we have our variables, they're here, and then we have three methods, first, second, and third. The third, the last method here is main method. Here in this main method the execution of the program starts. Name of language elements is called identifier. So it means that weight, height, BMI, BMI calculator, calculate BMI, and so on, all those elements are identifiers. These names of elements, they cannot start with reserved words, with keywords. For example, if you would like to have a variable, let us say double variable with name new, you would receive error because the word new is reserved as keyword. Here, for example, you see its usage. Java is case sensitive. It means if you have several variables such as BMI, then double BMI, and integer BMI, all of them will be seen by Java as different variables. So here is the list of all keywords that you have to know in order to use them correctly. The variables here represent a name for a memory location. It means that when you declare a variable, a specific part of your memory will be allocated to this variable. The size of this memory allocation depends on the variable type that you specify here. Double, integer, or long or short, all of them have different sizes. The methods, for example, this one, they represent different functionality. The method code is enclosed within brackets, curly brackets, and here you see the method itself. Let us have a look on the main method. The very first word is public. It tells us that this method can be accessed by other classes without restrictions. The static tells us that it doesn't need an object. Void tells us that this method will not return any value, and here you have some arguments. So the next important part of our code are comments. So comments, there are different types of them. The very first one is when you use 2 slashes and then you write your comment. Usually this type of commenting used when you just want to comment one line. If you would like to comment several lines, then you type 1 slash, 1 star and press enter. Automatically there will be a block comment opened for you by Eclipse, and here you can write block comments. If you want to produce HTML documentation from your Java code, then you can use Javadoc comments. In this case, I will show you how to do this. We will open a class BMI calculator with header, and here you see some kind of code, some kind of comments at the beginning. This is similar to our block comment, just we have 2 stars at the beginning. And maybe you can recognize here HTML tags. B, for example, stands for bold, U for underline. Here we have our list and items of a list. So you write here the code that you would like to be shown in the HTML documentation. When you prepared your code, the starting part, you write the description of your code here. You describe it with comments, as it's shown here, and then you go to Project, Generate, Javadoc. Here in configuration, you need to find your Javadoc execution file. Usually it is in the program files, Java, your JDK, and in bin folder. So you need to find this Javadoc execution file and open it here. Next, you have to select the document that you want to use for your HTML. That is this one, BMI calculator with header. And you choose the destination where you want to save it. So we will create a folder on desktop, Javadoc. Select folder, yes. Here you can select several options. If you need all those features, you can use them. If not, then not. We will just press finish. First, of course, we need to save our documents. No. Okay, so now it should be here. And we have here the folder with our document. And this is how our code looks like in the readable format. Pretty nice. Okay, so coming back. So now you understand why it is important to create meaningful comments. First, for you to understand what you are doing in specific methods. Since maybe you will return to your code 1 week later, maybe even in 1 month, and you want to understand what you have been doing there pretty quickly. The naming conventions. So there are some specific conventions that you should use when you are writing Java code. So if you're naming your class, upper camel case is used. It means that if the name consists of, for example, 3 or 4 words, then you write all of them together with every word starting with capital letter. When you are writing your variables, you're using lower camel case. It means that the first word is written with lowercase letter, and all the next words, for example, weight of the man, all the other words are written with the capital letter. And the same is true for the method names. For example, let us... Here is the method, for example, calculate BMI. So we have the first letter is in lowercase, and all the other words, or if it is abbreviation, are in capital letters, in uppercase. So we are done with now with our first part, and we are coming to our Java data type.